Hello สวัสดี I'm not sure what language should I speak so I'm just going to mix both of the Thai and English สวัสดีครับ Hello จอไลค์กัน Hello Morning Good evening Good night สวัสดีวิเสียงดังไปไหมวะแป๊บนึงดูเพลงก่อนสวัสดีครับสวัสดีครับเดี๋ยว Morning Good morning แต่มาดูอะไร Hi there Hello so I might speak both of the language so Thai and English just so that both of the viewers can get up to speed on what I'm saying and stuff สวัสดีจ้าวันนี้เราจะมาเบรกดาวงานแล้วก็ทำงานไปในเวลาเดียวกันนะครับก็งานที่นี่แหละครับที่ผมกำลังนั่งคุกกิ้งอยู่นะ Right so for this stream I'm going to work on this upcoming piece but also I would like to make some breakdown what is going on here hold on yeah so I'm going to make a little bit of like a visual effects breakdown since I've seen many people ask me about this and by the way they are not going to be like a camera and stuff because well I'm on my PC and I don't have any I don't have any like a camera attached to this so you are just going to see me as a cat form today so we're going to make a little bit of like a visual effects breakdown and you can also request me what project would you like me to do a little bit of like an explanation yeah so just let me know ครับก็วันนี้เราก็จะมาอธิบายเอฟเฟกต์นะครับผมไม่รู้กันว่าคนไทยนี่พวกเราเนี่ยเราชอบ After Effects กันไหมนะแต่พี่ๆต่างชาติเขาชอบมากเลยนะครับชอบมากนะผมไม่รู้ว่าคนที่ตามผมมาตั้งแต่ต้นจาก YouTube นี่ผมไม่มั่นใจว่าจะอินไหมก็จะได้ว่าน่าจะไม่อินหนักมากเพราะว่าแบบคอนเทนต์เริ่มต้นของเรามันก็คือวาดรูปเนาะเข้าใจได้breakdownบูกี้เปิดมีมดเยอะมดกำลังบุกคอมพิวเตอร์ผมนะตอนนี้นี่ปกติโปรเจกต์ผมมันจะต้องมีลูกตาทำไมล่ะนั่งทำตาแล้วกันเสียงเบาไปอะไรดังไปบอกได้นะครับเพราะว่าเวลาผมไลฟ์ใน PC มันชอบมีปัญหาเรื่องเสียงอะดูลูกตา Alright so I'm going to make a little bit of breakdown on this recent work so far I have started making more 3D stuff on After Effects, especially the 3D visual effects. So I'm going to use this pre-render. So it's going to be a lot easier to do a preview. So this is the pre-render. Alright, so you might think that it looks really complex or really hard to do, but in reality, it's much easier than you think, but you have to understand some limitations in After Effects first, or a new workflow that you have to adopt in order for you to like create these 3D effects. So the first is obviously going to be the cube. I think I made this cube before. So the way you do it is very simple. So let me go into the cube comp, which is this one. So it's pretty much just a solid layer and then you just attach it and construct it into like this cube and that's pretty much it. Hey there. Thank you. Yeah, so you just pretty much you manually do this Like if you are on Blender or any 3D programs, this is pretty much just like a default cube that you're pretty much going to delete it. But like on the After Effects, yeah, there is no plugins for cube. As so far I have never discovered the plugins that's going to generate a cube. Like, yeah, there are like this advanced 3D stuff, but I would like to do everything on the classics 3D, right? Because I've tried to use the advanced 3D and Cinema 4D before, it doesn't work the way I wanted it to work. Mainly, it's the texturing problem. Like, if you manually like stick all of these face onto each other, you can individually put in a texture. Like here's what I did. Like there are 6 face. Is there 6? 1, 2, 3, 4. Why are there only 5? Huh? Okay, never mind. Alright, so you make all of these 6 face, and then in each one you put in like a turbulent noise or anything that is going to create the texture. You could use the cell layer, which is the previous technique that I did. So you can use this cell pattern, and then you can select like the mixed crystals and increase the contrast and just increase the size, play with the dispersion a bit, right, to get the crystal effects. Or you can use a normal turbulent noise, which I feel like using a turbulent noise or a fractal noise is going to give you a much better result. In terms of like customizations and like you can go to the sub settings and then just play with this shape a bit more. Like let's say if you want it to be more detailed, you can just increase the complexity up and you can see more shapes. So from my experience, I kind of feel like turbulent noise is much better. And another thing that I discovered is that if you only use one single, so I use a shape layer for this. If you only use one shape layer, your cube is going to be very flat. So in order for you to combat this problem, you can manually add in bevel. So this is like bevel. So how do you do it? It's quite simple. I just duplicate this shape layer up again, and then just use a fast box filler and reduce the iterations down to 1. So it's not going to be very fussy, but you are going to still see all of these like intersections of line. And you can use this technique to create a bevel in your cube. Alright, and you just copy and paste this 6 times, and then go to the turbulent noise and go to the random seed, and then you just, you know, manually set this to whatever you want. Okay, and that's how I construct a cube. And another thing that you have to do is once you have done all of this, I'm usually going to use a classic difference blend mode because it gives you the effects of like, I'm not sure how do you call this, like you can kind of see that the texture are overlapping on each other, and you can see it kind of like interacting just like a real crystal. So that's the main blend mode that I usually use. You can also use the screen or classic color dodge, but so far I don't think that it's working. So my best go-to is still going to be the classic difference, right? And once you construct all of this, the rest is to put in a displacement. So right here. Right. So without anything, it's going to look something like this. And I do use the additional plugins, which is the Displacer Pro, but this one is free, right? So the reason why I use this because I want to use the chromatic aberration to give this like a rainbow color into our cube, right? Because once like the light refracts, and yeah, it's kind of physics stuff, I don't really know either. Like I'm pretty sure that once the light refracts or reflects, it's going to create this rainbow shape or rainbow color. And you can kind of implement this with the Displacer Pro. So just set the map layer to your cube layer, which is Mine is like comp 2. And then go to the map interpretations and set it to legacy. Because if you don't, if you set it to standard, the shape is just going to go outside of your map layer, which is something that we don't want. Right, so set this to legacy, and then you can just play with everything, like rotations, maybe. If you want it to be more chaotic, just like put the rotations to like 1 rotations, like that. Right, it's going to be a bit more chaotic, more beautiful, more chaotic, but at the same time, it's going to make a bit harder for your audience to see, or your audience to like interpret what the hell is this, something like that. So I typically going to leave it to like 0 rotations, and I just mess with the scale, right? Because the scale is something that you can increase, and the shape, the generally shape is not going to change. You can still see it resembles a cube. Okay. And another thing that you can do is you can stack layer onto each other. I do understand that it's going to create a much lag in your work, but here's another way for you to do it. You can pre-render this. So let's say I'm complete with this cube. I can just hit render and then just use this as like a video file, which is something I did right here. Yeah, just use it as a video file, and so far it's much more easier for my PC to run. As you can see, this is just a video file. Yeah, so I suggest you do that because it's going to give you a more render time and stuff. Like, it's going to be much easier for you to preview. Okay, and the next thing is the flower, which is a new effect that I just try to experiment. So let's go to this here, flower. Alright, so the flower kind of used the same technique that I did with a jellyfish. So let's open one of this layer. So it's this one. Okay, so the first thing that I try to do is I try to create like a petal shape while not trying to like draw it out manually. You might think that it's kind of weird, like why don't you just draw it manually? Because like I'm I'm one lazy bastard, so I just don't want to do it. But the thing that I discovered is that if you use a CC sphere, which is technically a 3D sphere, right? And you put in the texture, which is a fractal noise, right? And it's going to remap this into a sphere. And then you use a linear wipe to remove the top part. So you're going to get all of these bottom part right here. And then if you use a wave warp, it's going to create that flower shape here. See? So we use a wave warp, and then you can set this to these two. So these two are the one that I tried, and it resembles flower the most. Triangle is going to create like a uniform shape. So it's more like a flower. Yeah, flower. Yeah. And sawtooth is going to create more like a windmill shape, but I kind of like it, so I stick to this. And you can play with the wave height, so it's going to increase like the height of your petals. So it depends on like your preference. And the wave width is going to increase how much petal is going to be in your work. So if I reduce it down to like 20, it's going to be something like that. Okay. And the wave speed, I suggest you set this to 0, because even with like a 0.1, you can already see the chaos. Not this, not 0.1, let's say 1. Yeah, kinda. Because I suggest you, if you want to rotate this, I suggest you do it with the CC sphere. Like there's this tab on the rotations, and you can just rotate this manually, and it's much easier. Because if you use a wave warp to rotate, it's going to distort the noise, all this noise texture that you put in. So I recommend you to use a CC sphere instead. Jesus, this is a hard word to pronounce. Right, as you can see, it's the same texture. But let's say if I don't use this rotation and I use the wave speed instead, let's set this to 10. Holy. maybe 3. Yeah, as you can see, this the noise got distorted, as you can see, which is not something that we want. Okay, so I recommend you to set it to 0 and then just use the CC sphere instead. Right. So now you have a flower shape. The rest that you have to do is to add in that glass texture. Now there are a lot of plugins that's going to turn your footage into like a glass-like material. The first one is obviously CC glass. This one, but it typically will not cooperate. Like it doesn't work. Most of the time it doesn't work. The next one is the stylized one. This one is yeah, it kind of works, but like most of the time you have to like set the brightness or like tweak this setting, or it just downright doesn't work. Like this time it doesn't work. Everything just disappears. So like yeah, it's kind of, it's not really reliable. And the third one, which I recommend, is to use a vector blur. And this one's going to give you the best results so far, right? Because with a vector blur, you can kind of like play with the shape, and you can get this bevel that you typically see in like a realistic glass, right? And you have to set this to like a negative amount, right? Because if you set it to positive, it's just going to invert itself in, right? So set this to negative. The type that I typically use is going to be natural, this one. And then that's pretty much it. The rest is you play with these settings. So there is a rich smoothness, right? And the map softness. So the lower the softness, the more texture you're going to see, right? Typically you're going to set this to like 3. Between 3 and 4 is my sweet spots. Just out of curiosity, back in the day, did you take any course? I did not take any course. However, I do study in animation major. And there is like a lesson teaching you about the visual effects and After Effects stuff. So yeah, I did. It's kind of a course, but like more like a self-learning course. Because most of the things that I did here came from my own experiments. So yeah. And holy voice crack, jeez. The rest is, once you have put all of these plugins, you have to layer all of them, and that's pretty much it. You keep layering them to get all of these shapes working together to create this beautiful flower. And then just do the same technique that we use with the cube. So you do a pre-comp of this, and then you add in the Displacer Pro, and then play with the chromatic aberrations, and now you're going to get this. It's quite hard to do consistently, because most of the time some shapes might not work, some shapes will not appear. Yeah, so you have to like fine-tune it a bit. But once you got it, you can just render this as an asset and you can use it later on, which is something that I did here. So I just rendered all of these in like videos files, so these two, and then just put them together. And that's pretty much it. I feel like I need to do a lot of backtracking. Yeah. Feel free. I usually don't like hide the stream, so once the stream ends, you can just, yeah, you can start backtracking. Right. So this is how I typically do my visual effects. So I usually start with a 3D shape first. So just put the CC sphere inside first, and then put in a fractal noise. So this is like the order that I typically use. So CC sphere first, then fractal noise, then linear wipe to get the feel of how much wipe you want it to be. I don't know what the word should I use there. And then once you put in a wipe, you can now use a wave warp to determine like what shape of the petals you want it to be, and then put a vector blur. And this is the order that I usually do. Okay, that's pretty much it. And the rest is just, as I told you, layering. So we just stack 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 onto each other. I don't really recommend you to just use only one layer and call it a day. because it never looks good. It never does. I recommend you to just stack at least like 2 or 3 layers stack onto each other. You can play with the blend mode and stuff, but overall it's going to make your visual effects look much more better. And that's pretty much it. ไว้มาหาคางคุณที่สวยเหมือนเดิมเลยขอบคุณมากครับถึงแม้ผมจะแรปอังกฤษเข้ามาแล้วก็ทุกคนดูคนไทยก็จะงงผมพูดอะไร Right, so I'm not going to start compositing this. I'm usually going to do the eye as well. So I haven't started yet. I plan to do it during the stream. So yeah, let's do it. So I would like to talk a little bit about the eye, but if you want to like ask anything, feel free to do so. I'm just going to like keep yapping. I don't want the stream to be like dead silence. Alright, so the eyes. So I typically use polar coordinates to turn this to a circle. Right. So the eye, this time around, I am going to make like a flower shape. So it's going to fit with like this main effects right here. I'm not sure if it's possible. If it doesn't work, then yeah. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. Pretty much it. So After Effects is not a 3D program. I don't think this is built to like work in like 3D space. Though you have like the 3D layer and stuff, but it's not going to be as complicated as the 3D programs. So most of the thing that you have to do is like a pseudo, like a Fox 3D, like it's fake, kind of like a 3D, but it's literally like a 2D stacked onto each other to make it look like 3D. It's one thing that I think that is really impressive because with a 2D you have like a freedom to distort the shape or to play with the shape that typically is not possible with 3D. So yeah, that's the one thing that I really like with After Effects. The freedom that they give you. Even though like the license might be a bit, you know, expensive, but like yeah, I love the program. I haven't found any replacement of this so far. So flower shape. I do think that it might work. I don't know, will it work or not? I'm going to try to use wave warp right here. It should work. Okay, it should work. So set this to triangle. Okay, it's working. But yeah, maybe if I use the twirl right here, because I want to hide this theme, so I'm going to use a twirl. Well, what the fuck is going on? Huh? It shouldn't be like this. What is going on? Oh yeah, because it's yeah. I'm dumb. Hold on. Oh yeah. Okay, hold on. So it's not possible then. Unlucky. สำเนียงกีดีเลยค่ะขอบคุณมากครับ What I was planning was to hide the seams. I thought it might be possible to use a twirl on top of like a wave warp and then just twist the noise, but I completely forgot that I do have a polar coordinates on here. So this technique is not possible, so we might need to reconsider this. Let me try to think, hold on. It should be possible. Many times that I have faced these roadblocks, I managed to push through. Let me try to use circle. At least I want this part right here, because with circle you can kind of create like a mask for this. Yeah, kinda. I'm going to use the range so I can remove all of these black color right here. But I don't think that it's going to look good. ทำตาอยู่ใช่ไหมคะ ตอนนี้ผมกำลังจะทำตาแล้วครับ ผมยังไม่ได้เริ่มเลยกำลังจะทำพอดี it might not work you know what I'm just going to go back to basic I keep promising and I keep running away from my promise alright so I'm going to make the oh my god I forgot the name hold on what name is it oh Jesus okay so I'm going to use a Pinterest I love Pinterest even though like most of the works on Pinterest so far is now AI I do have a pin that contains mostly human arts but sometimes I got deceived as well it's much harder for you to distinguish between AI or like literal illustrations it's getting harder it's getting more and more harder the line that's cross between the 2D art and AI art it's starting to fade away this is concerning I feel like so okay yeah typically going to find my holy shit what is this image I'm pretty sure that it is from a movie but holy shit what is this take a look at this you know what no it's too disturbing okay fine no I'm not going to let you see that like there's a fucking image like a two-person like the eyes of two of these persons are like touching the fuck am I looking at holy like it's touching like I don't want to elaborate on that it's literally scary okay let me take this here okay alright so I have an image now so let's get started so let's start on the outside part of the eye first and if you know things about the anatomy please let me know because I don't know anything about the anatomy or the name so you start with the fractal noise first or you can use turbulent noise it depends you know what I'm going to use the turbulent noise okay. So let's do that the main difference between the two is turbulent noise is going to create a better natural moving noise but in a cost of no loop so you cannot loop this like you cannot make a seamless loop but compared to the fractal noise you're going to have the looping options which is here cycle evolutions so you can loop this right but I want to aim for something more organic so I'm going to use the turbulent noise right. So let's scale this up and then polar coordinates to remap this into a circle alright so you got that and then to make an eye shape it's pretty simple you uncheck the uniform scaling this one and just start scaling height and width so something like that okay and then you play with the brightness a bit stop settings also until you get the shape that you want that's pretty much it so since we are doing an anime eye I don't recommend you to make it too detailed what I mean by too detailed is like the sub-scaling of this is too much so let's say if I reduce this down as you can see the sheer amount of detail is too much right anime is all about reconstruction and like reducing the details so making the details a bit more simple and you should stick to that mindset while creating like a visual effect as well and that's probably one of the reasons that I use to make like these visual effects kind of work with the anime style so just keep in mind that these stuff has to fit like it has to be in the same style so something like this yeah and then I'm going to use the should I use color range? Not yet. Okay, I do that, and then play with the evolutions a bit. $100, 50. Okay, I don't want this to move too quick. All right, and then now you have this, and then as I told you before, the rest you have to do is pretty much just start stacking layers onto each other. So let's do that. So I'm going to put another screen, so it's going to remove the black part away, and then go to the evolution option and set the random speed to like whatever numbers you want. And now I'm going to play with all of these brightness and contrast stuff. Right? You can play with the scale too. You don't really need to like stay in the same scale. You can just like maybe increase the scale or reduce the scale. Yeah, something like that. Alright, so just keep playing until you get something that you want. So I'm just going to play with this a bit. Probably I would scale high a bit more. Yeah, something like that. Let's see, play. So what I'm planning is to have like a flower, but I kind of feel like once you scale this down, you won't even see what's inside the eye. So it's going to be much better if we stick to a bigger shape so the viewers can see what the hell is going on. Right, so let's do that, and then we are now going to start at, oh yeah, I completely forgot about this. Right, so another plugin you have to use is a circle. So this plugin is going to enable you to control the size, the radius of your eye. So click this and turn this to stencil alpha. So basically it's just going to read everything from above. I'm just going to copy paste this. Okay, I don't recommend you to like put this as close to the edge as possible. I don't recommend. Kind of like use this circle and then just reduce the radius down a bit. Okay, and that's the reason. Because once you want to add, let's say, a deep glow, it's going to get cut out and it's not going to look really good. Okay, so try not to do that. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to set this to only a circle, and this one is going to be the black part of the eye. Change this to normal. Okay, now you can go to the feather and use the feather outer edge. Okay, or another thing that you can do is set this to dancing dissolve, and it's not going to be like a normal gradient fade, but it's going to be like these pixelated fades. So it depends on your style. This is what in case we can't see all live. Yeah. I do understand. So the live stream, even though it ends, I typically going to like you know, just publish this onto my YouTube, so you can rewatch this. I kind of want this to like keep dancing, but like the speed is too fast. I'm just gonna leave like this for now. Okay. Right, so now we have this, and let me try to think. Oh, the glitter. Okay, so there's another thing that I like to add in my eye, which is a glitter. It's pretty simple to do. All you have to do is just scale down your noise until you only see like these small pixelated stuff. Reduce the complexity is going to help as well, and then reduce the brightness down. So you only see this really small shape, alright? And this is going to be the glitter in the eye. Set this to screen. Alright, so there's going to be a little bit of that glitter. Okay. And for this glitter, I recommend you to go to the evolutions and speed this up to like 300s and stuff. Yeah, okay, something like that. Now it should start moving. Let's see the entire comp. Just going to stop it right here. Kind of taking a lot of time to render. Right, so something like that. The reason why I say it like it's taking a lot of time because we only have like a 4 layer and it's already taking like 1 second or 1 or 2 seconds per frame or per like 2 or 3 frames, which is already slow because we are not working in 4K or anything. Alright, so we have that. I kind of feel like we can move this also. So let's go to the offset turbulence and then put the keyframes here. I want this to like move in. So it's like a galaxy moving, like a black hole, moving all of these stars into itself. Yeah, see? I'm pretty sure that it's going to be a bit hard to see on the stream, but yeah. Like so. And then we gotta work on the shading right now. So I'm going to use the solid layer and then use a track matte onto the bottom layer. And this is going to be like a shading. Set this to multiply and then you can use a gradient ramp. Set this to radial gradient. Swap color. And just use this pin and put it below. Alright, so now it's going to have like a realistic shading, just like a anime eye, and then we have to start stylizing this. Right. So let's start by making a little bit of the reflection on top. So I'm just going to invert the scale height and scale width. So it's going to be like this twirl shape, something like that, and then add a twirl as well. So it's going to hide that theme. Kinda, yeah. It's not going to be 100% seamless, but like at least it's helping. Right. So yeah, now you have that. And then I'm going to use a track matte and track matte onto this shading layer or shading solid. I don't think it's working, so set this to, oh yeah, you have to set this to Luma. So what Luma matte means is it's going to read the black and white of your layer. So the areas that is white is going to be read, and the area that is black is going to be unread. So basically, this white part is going to be shown, but I don't want that. I want it to be on top. So you just go to here and then click invert, and you got that. Now I'm going to play with the opacity a bit. Start play. Do you keep these streams on your channel? Yeah, I do. This also looks great to water animation. Thank you. I feel like it's the same technique. I'm using the same technique every single time I try to create something. It's a fractal noise, some distortions, and then some way to texturize it, and that's pretty much it. Right, so now you have this. You can kind of play with the shape a bit more by using a shape layer. I'm going to try to do that. So I'm going to use a star 2. You can double click. I'm typically going to double click a star 2. So it's going to create this perfect star. I'm going to go to like a points and then try 4. And then go to the stroke color. I don't want to use a stroke. I want to use a fill. So just click on none. One. And then on fill, I'm just going to use a solid color. Right. And then play with the inner radius and outer radius a bit. Something like that. Okay, so now you have this. And you can play with the points too. Like maybe you can use a 6 points. So it's like an Oshinoko. But to avoid that show, I'm just going to use like a 5 or maybe 4. I think 4 is the safest. Like there are some symbols that are like a taboo that I cannot use. I don't know why people like why most of like a taboo symbols resembles the star shape. Don't know why. I love the star shape, don't get me wrong, but like, damn, it's sad. Alright, and I'm gonna stop yapping. And to make it curve, like this corner curve, you need to use an effect called plucker and both. So let's go to the star, click this drop down, and there's gonna be this add. So this is like an add animation. And use plucker and bloat. And yeah, just play with this until you get this curve. Or you can just go crazy and then just crank this number to like this extreme. I've tried it before and it crashed my PC. So I don't recommend you to like slide this or like play with this too much. Like yeah, around -100 it's fine, yeah. But don't go like -1 billion, something like that. Like you can just keep like scrolling it. I'm playing with the devil right here. I don't recommend you to do it. Alright, something like that. Okay, I want to have like a star. And then from my knowledge, I think you can use an add and add another star. Holy star. Yeah, you can add another star. I don't see the star. Okay, I guess you cannot do it. So what I'm planning to do, I'm planning to like make a double star like that. Yeah. So rotate 45 degrees to get this perfect symmetry, and then reduce the outer radius down, and you get that. Okay. So this is how I typically do an eye. Right. There's going to be like this main shape right here, and then it's going to be like a pupil and iris. I don't know which one is pupil, I don't know which one is iris, I don't know, man. So you have that. And this star shape, it is too static right now. So let's add in some movement. I'm going to use a roughen edge. Right. And just crank the sharpness up to max. So 10 is the maximum. And reduce the border down. You can also use a spiky. Right. So spiky is going to fit more with the light shape because it's protrude, like it's protruding. So increase, reduce the complexity down a bit, or maybe increase. Actually increase. Okay, increase. Okay. And then you can now play with its evolution. So just use an expression time and then put this like 500. Right. Hit play, it's gonna do something like that. Okay. And then just copy this and then paste with this shape layer as well. Alright. So now you're going to have this moving star, which is out of bounds. So I have to rescale this a bit. Like that. Or maybe, you know what, I'm just going to leave it like this. Yeah. So now you have this. I am going to put this to a dancing dissolve. So the shape's going to be more clear. Right. And then let's go to the stroke color and then play with this a bit. I kind of want to see how things would look. So far not looking so good. Okay. And I'm going to duplicate this. But this one is going to be like a glow. So I'm going to use a radio fast blur. So it's already in the middle, and then yeah, just do that. So there's going to be this glow coming out of the eye. Now you can set this to bright or dark, but since there's only one color, I typically going to use the radio fast blur, so this one, like the standard tool. Okay, and then I'm going to start playing with the color once every shade and everything is already established. So now we're going to work with the color. So I'm going to start with the eye first. So let's go to here. So color vibrance is typically the main plugins that I use. Or if you are a bit lazy like me, I'm very lazy. So I'm just going to put every layer here. So these 4, since I'm making the one eye color, I'm just going to use the adjustment layer instead, like that. And then now you can start selecting colors. So let's see. I kind of want to make the white eyes. I don't know. Because I'm getting tired of the blue color because all of my work is blue. Maybe cyan, yeah, something like that. What is this circle with noise? It's the eye. So what I'm planning is to just track matte this onto this eye. You know what? Let me demonstrate it. So I guess it's this one. Okay. And so this is the eye. So here's what I typically do. So I'm going to render the eye like this, scale it down, and then just slap it onto this. Something like that. So 6, like so. And then I'm going to use a 3D layer. What is this? Oh. And then start rotating this so it's match the actual axis. Okay. 5 maybe. I don't really mind all of these red part because I'm just going to use a fill later on. So I use the red color to see, to make it much easier for me to see. That's pretty much it. And for the right eye, just duplicate this and then put it here and rotate this more. Yeah. Alright. And for this placeholder, I'm just going to set this to black so it's not distracting. And yeah, that's pretty much it. All of that just to get covered with lights. All of that, like you cannot even see, but like, yeah, I tend to do eye on After Effects much more lately because I feel like you can play with the shape and, you know, make it move, which you typically cannot do without like a frame by frame, which I'm not really good at that. So use After Effects instead. And let's try to see if there is like this star, how it's going to look. Yeah, it's gonna look really good, but like, well, it got covered with lights, so you cannot see it very well. But yeah, you can see it. Okay. And I'm going to try set this to white color. Let's see how it would look. Okay. Okay, it's a bit better to spot because like there is a scaling as well, so the detail is going to get lost. But I'm okay with that. I'm in the black circle with the noisy part. Oh yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. The black circle with a noisy border. This one, I think? Yeah, okay. So this is like a dark part of the eye. I'm not sure how do you call it. Let me try to research a bit. Is it pupil? I think it's a pupil. Eye. Hold on. Pupil or... Oh yeah, it's a pupil. So this one. But I use the dancing dissolve instead of like a normal circle, because if you use a circle, there's going to be this option called feather outer edge, and I'm trying to recreate like how the human eye would look like, because it's not going to be like this sharp edge, obviously. So I use the feather, but I discovered that since we are doing the eye in anime style, I prefer to have a little bit of the texture. So I go to the mode and then change it to dancing dissolve. So it's going to be a bit noisy. Or if you want to use a normal layer, you can use the plugins called scatter. So this one, it's going to give you almost the same, but it's going to be much softer. Right, so you can use a scatter here. It's almost the same, and you can just hit randomize every frame. So it's going to start moving. Okay. But I like to use the dancing dissolve more because I can see this pixel a bit clearer. That's it. So I'm going to play with this color more. It's like a fake glow. And the glitter that I mentioned, you can add a deep glow in to make it more striking. What? Oh, yeah. Has to be on top everything. Okay. Yep. So we have this glitter, and I think I'm going to start making the effects that I've seen many people ask. How do I do it? Which is like this circular flare that I usually do. So we start with a fractal noise. Scale up, reduce brightness, polar coordinates. Until today, I have never set this as a preset, so every time I want to do it, I have to do it manually. Like I have to like retype. What am I saying? Retype every single thing from scratch. So something like that, reduce the complexity down. Use a circle. Good thing, the reasons why I use circle and not the mask is because you can do the edge thing right here. And it's much better with circle. So I recommend you to do it, or I recommend you to use it. Oh, cool, thanks, Suri. You're welcome. And you can do that. I'm planning to add like these. What is going on? Okay, I'm planning to add this line, like a halo in her eye. Okay. So just do a feather thing, the same. But I'm going to reduce the width down, so the shape is going to be, yeah, it's going to be repeated much more. Should it be more feather inside or feather outside? Okay. Something like that. And then you can use the quick chromatic aberrations, which is a third-party plugins, but it's free, so you can use it. And go to sample and then hit fix. The reason why I use like a fixed sample, because I can control the color much more accurate. Like the sample, the only one sample means that it's just going to duplicate only one time, and the more samples, the more color that is going to like diffuse. Right. So I'm typically going to use a one sample and then just like play with that, or just use single, yeah. Because sometimes when the shape is too small, like in this case, the shape is really, really small, you don't really need to play with the samples at all. But I feel like if you increase the width, now you can clearly see that you can see that it's not working properly. So you have to go to the samples and then hit auto or like fix. So the shape is going to be much more controllable. As you can see, it's going to like blur bit more. But yeah, since we are working with this, I'm not going to put anything in. So put this below, and my favorite blend mode for this is going to be the classic color dodge. It gives you the best results and like more realistic lighting. Right, and then another thing I'm going to put is the deep glow. Right. And then reduce the exposure down. This particle looks like a CC ball action. You mean the glitter right here? Or like the line here. You could use a particle as well, I think, like a ball action. But one thing that I don't like about ball action is that it's really hard to control. Like if you use like a previous version of After Effects, let's say 2023, it's really hard to control. The configuration is saying thank you. I mean, it's not my plugin, so yeah. But you can kind of combine all of these together to create these effects. And now I'm playing with the opacity, right? Because I have never set, like if you use a classic color dodge, never set it to like 100% opacity because it's pretty much just bleeding. What I mean by bleeding is just like the color is too saturated, and you can see this kind of like a color bleeding. I'm not sure how to describe this, but like it's too bright, it's too much. So just reduce it down to like 60 or 70%, right? Something like that. Okay, so it's going to give a little bit of that chromatic aberration effects on the eye. The glitter, yeah, okay. You can use a ball action for this too, but I don't really recommend. But if you want it to be like a more volumetric, so let's say you want to make like a black hole eye, then you need to use a ball action because it's going to create that depth that is needed for the effect to be convincing, right? Okay, so we have that. Another thing that I would like to do is to add the side gradient. So you can do this pretty quickly by using a, I'm going to use, no, I'm not going to do it like that. Hold on. I'm going to duplicate this up. So I'm going to add a little bit of like gradient on the outline. Two ways for you to do. The first is to use the layer style. So you can just right click and then go to the layer style and then I think it's an inner shadow. Yeah, it's an inner shadow, but like another way that I prefer to do is to use a plugin called this transportation. This one is another outsourced plugin. We typically use this plugin for anime composite, but you can use this as like this kind of like gradients as well. It works really well. So I'm going to set this to black, right? And turn this to multiply, and this effect is going to create more depth, like a more realistic eye. So it's going to be like this, or you can just invert this to be a screen. It depends. You can use this to be a white. Depends on like what you like. Right. So if it's white, it's more like a pearl, but if it's black, it's going to look more like an eye. So it depends. The glitter particle, this one, I use a noise for this. Let me try to find that. Yeah, I use a turbulent noise. So the way I do it is quite simple. So let me reset everything. Right, so you start with this, and then you crank up the contrast and reduce the brightness down, so you see this white part as little as possible, and then go to the complexity. And then set it to like 1 or 2, something like that, and then you scale it down, like so. Right. Once you scale it down, the rest you have to do is just play with the brightness until you only see this small bit of a particle, and that's pretty much it. The rest is just like copy and paste the thing you already did here. So like polar coordinates, swirl, and then circle. That's it. Or In here, I do animate it a bit as well. So the two things that I animate is the evolution and then the offset turbulence. And that's how I made the glitter thing. Right, another thing that you can do is to layer multiple like a texture onto each other. I'm gonna try to do that. And I keep duplicating the wrong goddamn file. This one. Okay. So I'm going to use the color range for this because I only want the white part here. And then I'm going to change the seed to something completely random, something like that. Okay. And set this to multiply. And use a gradient ramp to create a color. And then use radial ramp, switch the color, and then the white part will be in the middle, and this black part is going to be on the side. It's a little bit hard to see, something like that, and like play with the layering a bit. Okay. Do you intend to create more class for your course in your future? You mean my colossal course? I think for the colossals, maybe in like another 2 or 3 years after like I learn like something new or something that I have never did before, then yeah, I maybe do another class. But for the colossal course that is already open, I don't think I am allowed to add any more lessons in that because of the contracts and stuff. Yeah. You know what? I don't think that it looks good. Okay, so you know, I'm just going to leave it like this, and let's go see the final prompt on our main. Yep, and you can barely see it. It's so small, you won't even see it. Right. Okay. Well, that's life. Everything that you do, something got overshadowed. Like, yeah. Yeah, you don't you don't even see it. Holy. All of that effort was for nothing. Yeah, so something like that. Now you can use a 3D layer, or there's another way for you to use or to like distort this perspective, which is a plugin called PowerPin. This one. It's work kind of the same like a real 3D, but like you can adjust these perspective line a bit better, right? But since we already established the, you know, the perspective of our work, I'm just going to use a normal 3D layer. And I do recommend, after you adjust everything, like after you put everything into places, I recommend you to render this. Just render all of these. Like use it as an asset. So it's going to be much easier for your computer to run. Is this configuration native? No, it's not native, unfortunately. It's the plugins from the OLM plugins. It's for compositing mainly, but I just discovered that you can use it to make a visual effects and stuff as well. First time that I saw it. It's the compositing plugins. I'm going to render this first. Pretty sure that my PC is going to go boom boom if I don't render this. So, pro tip, I think you might know this already, but if not, then I think it's going to be useful to you. You can render the video files that is transparent as well. So typically it's not possible if you use like an MP4, but if you use this special format, so if you use a QuickTime, and then change the format option to 4:4, like quadruple 4 XQ. And then just set the channels to RGB plus alpha. It's just going to render it as what you see in this preview. So like there are no backgrounds, and if you use that setting, it's just going to render it as is, so it's not going to be backgrounds, and there are not going to be much compressions. So it's really good if you want to render like an assets. So okay, so I'm going to hit render. The blue color, yeah, sure. But first, I would like to render this first. It's pretty small. It's not a really big effect, so it's going to render quick. It's really small. A sound, a blessed sound from the angel. Alright, so, oh, you mean the tint? Let's see. I use another plugin called VC Color Vibrance. VC is from Video Copilot, the team that create like a Saber plugins. This is a free plugin as well. It's really good with like a noise, especially like a turbulent noise or the fractal noise. It colorizes your work, and it's generally beautiful in my opinion. The free plugins, you can search it. Unfortunately, I don't have the link for this. The link is pretty old. Like this is a very old plugins. I think it's from like the CC era of After Effects. It's really old, but like it's really useful. Or if you don't want to download this, you can use the toner, which toner is a native plugin in After Effects, but you have to like adjust all of this manually by yourself. So I typically, for the quick workflow, I just use a VC Color Vibrance. That's it. Right, so now we have that. So I'm going to bring up, hold on, I'm afraid that there might be a leaks. So I'm going to, hold on. Okay, do that. And I think I messed up. Nope, I did not. Okay, here. And I'm going to replace the footage. Boop. Okay, so now it's replaced. Okay, so it should behave the same as before, but I got a faster render time. So let's hit play. And since I am streaming as well, it's going to be much slower. But I just want to see the overall work. The circle plugin? The circle is a native plugin. I mean the blue color. Oh, it's the same. I just use VC Color Vibrance. It's the same. So like, you can now start assuming that whether if they're like a color in my visual effects, just assume that I use a VC Color Vibrance. I'm not sure where it is. Oh, here. See? VC Color Vibrance. See? Really easy to use. You just pop this in and just call it a day. It's really useful. This one, the blue. Yeah, sorry, I like sometimes I cannot read for some reason. I don't know. Right, so blue, just VC Color Vibrance. So, and the circle plugins, that one is a native. You can just search it here, circle. It's right here on the generate circle, this one. Right, so now I'm going to start doing the compositing work because it's far from finished. There are a lot of stuff that I have to do. First thing is to like start comp this one because the pen is not finished at all. Let me try to find that. I don't really recommend you to just do it as I'm doing right now, where you don't name the layer. But well, I'm doing my work. I kind of remember like what layers it's what, but like when you are doing it with like a team, most of the time they are going to be really confused on what the fuck did you just send. Like they will not know. So I recommend you to just start naming your layer, because it's going to create a good habit. And now I already have like a bad habit of like not naming things. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate the distance coordination. It's mainly used for creating a mask, not a mask, like a, how do you call this? It's a texture, yeah. Kind of like a texture. This one. What the hell? Oh yeah, I forgot. Okay. Okay, yep. I forgot to duplicate that. Right, so I am going to use it to create, yeah, multiply, okay, to create a little bit of texture, because most of the time when we composite, our goal is to put in some effects so that our work will not look as flat. And this depends on like the style of work that you are doing. For me, I tend to use like a lot of like plugins to make it seems like there are a lot of stuff. Yeah, naming is really important, especially this mini layer. Yeah, I've seen some people like working with like hundreds of layers and they don't name it. I'm not sure how did they remember all of the things on the screen, but like, yeah, yucky. Wait, I think I messed some things up. Hold on. Oh. Yuck. I think I messed up. I think I accidentally removed the base layer of the hand, so I have to redo everything. Yuck. So, okay, so this might be a good time to demonstrate something with the FS plugin. So this one is a plugin mainly for compositing. This is not for visual effects creation at all, because it's mostly used with a character cell. Right, so I want to change this color. You can just do this. Okay, so select the first and the second color, and then hit checkbox. Right, and now the color is going to change. The same thing goes to here. Here. Yeah. Right. So with this technique, you can pretty much just draw everything in like one single layer, and then you just separate it on the After Effects. The first time I'm learning about this, I'm genuinely surprised that you can do it, because I thought that you need to export these layers separately. But once I understand it now, then yeah. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so it's now behaving as it should. Good. So let's hit play and see a bit. Oh, and by the way, the bokeh that you are seeing at the background, this one is also a plugin. So I typically create everything with After Effects nowadays. So there's a this is not a plugin, however, it's a preset called Better Bokeh. Like this one is an animation preset. It's free. I'm not sure will they change it to like a paid or stuff. I think it's free. So better bokeh is pretty much a, well, as the name suggests, it's a better version of like a camera lens blur. This is the normal camera lens blur. As you can see, the bokeh shape is not quite clear, but with a better bokeh, it's going to refine that shape to make it more beautiful. Okay, like you can set this to like triangle, rectangle, blah blah blah. Yeah. So I suggest you download that. Okay. And then I am going to start adding in some solid. Like to make a little bit of like light. I'm going to use a mask for this. Going to mask this part right here. And then, since I already have like a layer that is moving, hold on, let me see. Yeah. Is what I think it's this layer. So right here, and then parent it to this layer. It should move. Nice. And then use a feather. And then fill this with, let's say a blue or white color. Kind of like this color, and then set this to classic color dodge. Yeah, and now you're going to have a more realistic lighting compared to the screen. Kind of feel like screen is like it's more like a fog. It doesn't look like a real lighting. So I recommend you to use a classic color dodge and then just reduce the opacity down. Right. Like that. I'm going to try layering this a bit. Hold on. Because right now the one problem that I'm trying to fix right now is the overexposure, which is, in my opinion, inevitable. Like you cannot avoid it because like the cube is already white. It's already so bright, and then like you add more glow into it to make it more brighter. Yeah, so I have to fix that issue a bit. Gotta rebalance this stuff. This one has to be a bit darker so the audience can see what's going on. Yeah, so it's probably the hand. Another thing that you can do is you can add like a lens flare in as well. But I don't want to because I don't know. I don't like to use an asset, like a pre-made asset. I don't really like to do that. I want to change this a bit. And this is the reason why you should name your layer. Because you're gonna have the same problem as me. Trying to like click on every single layer. Okay, I found it, this one. Yeah. What a waste of time. So I'm contemplating whether I should just leave it blank, so like no color at all, or just put in a little bit of this. I don't know. Or just go wild and then just set this to white. Right. I don't know. I kind of feel like I want this to be a bit brighter. Like my gut is telling me that. So something like that, I think. Okay. Right, and another effect that I would like to try is a corner blur. Is that a word? I'm just trying to like translate what I usually say in Thai. I think it's a corner blur. I don't think there's other word. So let's try to make that. So we're going to make a blur map. So set this to white. And then I'm going to see. So I guess this part can be blurred because it's much further away from the camera. So it's going to be blurred. So the reason why I use this white solid is because if you remember, I mentioned about the Luma map. So the white part is going to be affected and the black part is not going to be affected. The blur map kind of works the same as that, same principle. So the part you want to blur, you just create a new solid, a white solid, and then yeah, just create a mask. That's it. And then the part that you don't really want to have any blur on, just put it in a black solid. And this is how you manually create a blur effects. If you use a 3D program, you are going to have like a depth map. But since we are doing everything in 2D, we do not have that. So you have to do it by yourself. So duplicate this adjustment layer. And I'm going to put in a better bokeh. Like that. And don't forget to check the repeat edge pixel. Okay. And then go to the blur map and then hit map. And the part that you told it to blur is going to blur, as you can see. And the cool thing about this is you can actually invert the map. So let's say the camera start focus from the left, like it start to like a shifting focus. So you can go to the blur focal distance and then just crank this to maximum. And as you can see, it's going to invert your blur map. So I typically use this effect to create a more dramatic entry. Like so, let's say on the 1 second, maybe 2 seconds, nope, 1 second, 1 second and a half. Then I'm going to change it to 0, like that. Okay, so now let's save and hit play. Alright, I think this is enough, and let's see. See, it's going to have like a tilt shift effect. Okay. And this is good. Alright. And another thing that you can do is you can go to the cube, so all of these, right? And to make it look more like a 2D, you can add in a posterized time. So this effect is going to reduce the frame rate. So I typically put this to 12. Let's hit play. It's going to start like moving on 2s basically. So every 2 frames it's going to move. And that is going to create like a more 2D look into your work. But it all depends on your preference. So maybe you kind of like it to be running in 24 frames per second. It's completely fine. As you can see, it's going to be a bit more like a anime style. I don't know. Like it has that more stylized movement to it. Going to put the posterized time in. And I'm thinking whether should I make like a light leaks. You know what? Yeah, I'm going to do it. But first, I'm going to go to the eye and copy this because I'm too lazy to make it again. Let's put it here. Alright. So typically use this like a halo light, but I have to change the width a bit. Yeah, something like that. And reduce the brightness down because it's so bright, too bright. Thank you. Put this down to 40. Okay. Maybe 50. Okay, 50 is this. The rest you have to do is just add some particle and some wind effects and you should be done. But I have to, I maybe have to add more stuff later on. It doesn't move, isn't it? Hold on. It doesn't move. Oh. Oh no. Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to wait for it to render. Okay, nice. So now we have a bokeh movement, we have this light leaks, or this circular flare. We have the eye. I kind of want to readjust the... Hold on. Move this light a bit. I don't think that I need this part. Hold on, let's see. Can I just do this? I don't think I can. No, I cannot. Okay. No worries. You know what? Fine. Deep glow. Yep, and now you cannot see a single thing. But I'm just going to add it anyways, because I like it. Okay, so now we have this, and the eyes... Yes, it's too bright. 0.1. And let's see this in a scale. Hold on. Here you go. So I'm typically going to use this to see whether it looks good or not. Like there's going to be like this black bar on top and bottom. That's going to see. So I'm pretty sure that I would want this this part to be blurred out, like this part right here. So let's do that. I'm just going to create more mask. Hue. All right. Okay. Alright, so this part is not good. Because it's not really important for it to exist anyway. Okay. I'm going to well, let me see. Let me try to think. It has to be rebalanced. The light has to be rebalanced a bit. So this is the eye. And this is... Oh, this is the light. Kinda need that. This is the reflection. I'm gonna change it to more red or more orange. This line is too big. I'm just going to duplicate this, but this one is going to be much smaller. Change it to screen so we can see it much more easier. Go to transform. Okay, like that. don't think it fits. However, if we use this, the distance gradation thing, move it out, move everything out, and I'm going to use the radio fastburn instead. So it's like the cube is literally glowing. Use a brightest, like so it's going to have this texture. Then set it to screen. Okay, so now the cube is going to have a little bit of like a glowing, distant glow. So, yeah, but it doesn't look good. And I typically going to add a chromatic aberration to everything, so just put it on top of everything. So it's going to make it more like a camera effect. And then go to stylistic, and this is the reason why I told you that sometimes you need to set the sample to like a fix and just like play with the numbers until you find the one that works the best. Because sometimes if you use like a single sample, it's not going to look good. See? Yeah. And these numbers are really sensitive, so just use like a decimal is already high enough. So, okay. This is chromatic aberration, the same process that you use on eyes? Yes, it's the same. Well, there is like chromatic aberrations, like a VR version of After Effects as well, but I don't really use it as much. So I just recommend you to like download this instead. It's free and yeah, it has a lot of customizations. It's really good. Right. The cool thing about compositing is, hold on, let me see. Like you can literally separate the line and color from each other. So take a look at this. So as you can see, this is like my original drawing. It's a bit dark, but like on this original drawing, I have a lot of like a color change and stuff going on. But you can literally separate the line out of the color, which is really not possible without like all of these additional plugins. And this is really useful if you want to create like a textured line. Let's say the pencil line. Yeah, it's a pencil line. So you can use this technique. Okay. Oh yeah, let's start working on the dust. I keep staring at it and I ask myself, what am I supposed to do next? Yeah, the dust thing. Okay. So for the dust, I just use a snowfall. Right? So use a snowfall and go to the background illuminations and then reduce the influence down to 0. So these particles are not going to be affected with the background color. And reduce the flake to like 100. So it's going to be like that. Increase the size up to max. And then use a color range to remove this black solid. Right? So it's going to be like this. And you can use a fill to fill in the color and just change it to whatever colors you want. I'm going to use like a gray color. And then to make it like float up, you can just go to the transform and then flip vertically, and now it's going to flow up. Pretty crazy. Like I use snowfall is because it's much faster than using like a particle work or particle system or whatever. It's a much faster. and it is easier. And that's pretty much it, why I use this. Right, so you have that. I'm going to put it right here. Okay. Set this to classic color dodge, and then set the wind. So, and then use a roughen edge to create that uneven texture, and you should be good to go. Let's see. Now I'm going to wait for it to render. Right, let's see. Yeah, it's going to create that uneven movement. And you can also add in like a wiggle to make it behave more like a literal thrust, like a literal dust. Whee! Or you can change it to black color. I'm usually going to blend like a two dust pipe together. The first one is going to be like a dark particle, and the second one is going to be the bright particle. Bright particle is going to be on top of everything. And then go to the extras and then change the seed. Okay. And the flakes, the amount of flakes should not be the same. So prioritize the black one, because the white one is going to be like deep glowed and stuff. The speed as well. Hold on. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. Okay. It's looking more and more like a blue log animation. So, blue log is going to have this dust check, this overcomp style check, no animation check. It's like a blue log animation, or more like a blue log PowerPoint show. Holy. Okay, so for the snow blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to use the posterize time to reduce the frame rate down, to try to pretend that this is an animation and not a slideshow. Yeah, sometimes you gotta put that in so it looks more like a genuine animation. the different frame rate helps also. Right, I'm now going to wait a bit more. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I kind of feel like the reduced frame rate makes your work a bit more like an animation. Yeah. Which in reality it is not. There's not a single frame that is moving. So I'm going to use a parallax a bit. I'm gonna move this up. Wait, hold on. What am I doing? Okay, so like that. And then once it's moved and background should move. Okay, now let's see. It's almost finished as you can see. One thing I like doing while compositing is to like you know, do something else. Play games, watch something on Twitter, Reddit, anything, because once you finish everything, then the rest you have to do is wait. Yeah, you have to have a patience. That's pretty much it. Alright, let's see. Okay, nice. Okay, so the background is now going to be a bit more lively. I guess that's the word. Right. I think that's pretty much it. You can add another filter layer on top. So it's going to be like a multiply. So you pretty much invert this curve. No, you don't invert, you just crank this up like so, and then reduce the opacity down at the Gaussian blur up first or down. It doesn't do anything. What? Just a little bit. Okay, fine. No, I don't think it's working. Okay. I'm just going to duplicate the screen and then change it to lighten. Like you can add multiple layers of filter together. Like it depends on your style. But I typically don't use that much filter because I already use a deep glow. Is it possible to loop a snowfall? Great questions. Let me try to see. I'm not sure either. Variable offset, extra, transfer. What? I don't think there is. I don't think so. Unless you do like a looping manually, which I don't really recommend. I'm not sure if there are like I think there is a way, but I have never tried. think there's a way for you to loop a particle. Maybe if you use like a, let me search, like a particle playground or system, maybe there is a way. Let's see. I'm not really sure. Nah. This particle on air makes more atmosphere so beautiful. Yeah. It just makes the work more like organic. Like it doesn't feel dead, because like if there are nothing moving in the scenes, then it's just going to be one boring like a wallpaper. Because I'm planning to sell this in wallpaper engine in the future as well. I'm just figuring things out because I have never used wallpaper engine before. Yeah. Oh, and I think another thing that I forgot to do is the light leaks. So let's do that quickly. It's the same technique that we used with like this circular flare. So let's do that. I'm just going to add like a light leaks at the start. So you can use a fractal noise for this. Quite easy. So increase the contrast, but not too much. Like something like that. And reduce the complexity down to 1. Alright. And then increase the scale up until you only see one single color, like here, right? And then you can just play with the evolution, and now you're going to get these light leaks, right? So I'm going to use a expression here to animate the evolution, like here, right? And you can play with the sub settings a bit too. Not sub-setting, sorry, like a complexity. So it's going to have a more shape to it, something like that. So it's typically going to start where there is like this kind of like a what the fuck am I saying? This big white part, because I'm going to add in the chromatic aberration in right here. Let's add it here, right? And use a VC color vibrance on top of chromatic aberrations, and then just change it to whatever colors you want. So typically I use a blue or cyan, right? And this chromatic aberration is just going to create like a color, extra color for you, right? You can play with the position and stuff, hue shift until you see the colors that you want, kind of like this. And then the last step is to use a fast box blur to blur everything out, like so. Right. And then just put this in a screen. And you are now going to have a manual light leaks. This might be too much. It's too bright. 60? Yeah. So now your scene is going to feel alive. Let's see. I wonder if you're favorite. Yeah. I guess you already know my secret. I just keep using the same. As I told you, like I've been using fractal noise for like every single project that I've did so far. That I've done so far. Yeah, it's been nothing but fractal noise. So I typically use a light leaks to introduce my scene or introduce my work or anything, because it's beautiful. Like if I was like an amateur, I might just use the masking and then just animate the masking by myself. But once I try to think everything with a fractal noise, then every effect becomes much easier for me to create or to make. Because yeah, light leaks, yeah, it's just a fractal noise and you just scale it up. What about this light flare? Yeah, it's just a fractal noise and you just uncheck the uniform scaling, you just play with it. that's pretty much it. Remove the color black on the layer. So great. Yeah. To be fair, I don't really know much about the technical details. I just know that color vibrance make things beautiful. So that's why I keep using it. I don't really know about the technical stuff that much, really. Okay, so let's see. Yeah. Kind of feel like this light is too bright still. But I guess this is the last part here. Just going to reduce it down a bit. It's a bit too bright, I cannot see. Maybe 70 is good enough. Yeah, okay, 70 makes it a bit better. Okay. Alright, so let's hit a preview page here. And then this button. Okay, so hit it to full screen. Going to wait for it to render a bit. And I guess this is going to conclude our stream. So I'm going to wait for it to run. Years later. Is it halfway? Oh, it's almost finished. Okay. Oh, what happened? Huh? Okay, thank you. Please don't jump scare me like that, please. Like I had it one time where I just add in too much effects, and then I keep adding it in like a one layer with like a 10 different effects, and then I just keep recomp it, duplicate it, and I've been doing it like for a while until one day that's the period where I use a laptop. I haven't had any PC before, so I use a laptop to composite the work. It fucking blue screen on me. Like it said that your PC has a problem. You gotta restart, man. And that traumatized me, and like I remember it through my heart that I will not stack effects ever again. If I want to stack a lot of effects, I have to render it as an asset and just work it with like a MOV file instead. It's really, really traumatizing because like I thought that like my laptop is going to like boom, it's going to gone. It's not coming back. It's a goner. It's so scary. Holy, that's horrible. Yeah, it is. But yeah, it's a learning process. So you gotta face it someday. Okay, so yeah. By the way, this is the finished piece. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this stream. Whee! So I might do some more retweak and maybe add a little bit of this and that. But yeah, in general, this is how I typically work and how I do most of the effects. But it's not as easy as I told you. It's much harder if you are experimenting because it's not going to go like as planned. Might be the best word I want to describe, because most of the time you might think that yeah, this might work, but then you try it and it doesn't work. So you have to like rediscover and rethink most of the stuff. So to be able to come up with your original visual effect is a bit hard, but at the same time, it's really rewarding. So yeah, you can now keep experimenting and keep trying. I've been trying this for like 1 or 2 years, every single day. Yeah, so this stuff takes a lot of time and a lot of like practice to do. Great art, great music. Thank you for your class today. Yeah, no problem. Well, I am doing it like doing this type of like a live stream every Saturday. Yeah. So you are free to join. It's the same time always. Well, for me, it's like a 20:30 p.m. Like it's a Thailand time. So it's GMT +7. I'm not sure like what time are you guys on right now? Like this is the time where I typically going to be active and it's my free time, so yeah. There's already something that's not working properly. Yeah. There are a lot of stuff that you have to face. So mostly it's going to be the program's limitations or your hardware limitations. When you start, you're going to face this problem a lot, but I did upgrade my PC and my laptop. So these type of like limitations are much more smaller. And right now, the only limitations that I have is myself. So like I want to create this, but yeah, I don't know how to do it. So you have to like experiment this type of like effects a bit. But once you have a concrete idea, you are going to remember that. And once you understand the basics, then you can just, you know, create this type of stuff. Well, what I have in mind right now is probably going to start experimenting with a more abstract shape, since I already made something that is concrete or like something that is ground to earth. The next effect that I would like to try is more an abstract shape, like a goofy shape. I don't know, like what I'm planning is like a looping infinity shape, right? I'm not sure how do you do it. I'm not sure how do you even make it in 3D, but yeah, I'm going to try and play with that. But yeah, for today, this is the work. Okay. And I think this is pretty much it. Yeah. So thank you. And if you would like to see more of the stuff, yeah, feel free, because we stream every Saturday. And this stream will not be, how do you call it? Like a private? Yeah, it's not going to be private, so you can just rewatch everything from the start. All right. Yeah, so I think this is the time for me to go. So thank you. Bye-bye. See you on the next week, next Saturday. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, bye-bye, bye-bye. I actually have to like open the Google. Hold on. Okay. Let me find. Where is my YouTube studio? Oh, here it is. Okay. Goodbye. See you. Bye bye. Good night, everybody. See you. See ya.